Welcome to my channel BBC Rare Coins. In this video we talk about USA Washington quarter dollar. That quarter in your pocket might be worth more than 25 cents, a lot more. We're diving into the most rare and valuable Washington quarters ever minted. Top 1. What if I told you there's a common-looking quarter from 1965 that could be worth as much as $69,000? A 25-cent piece, worth more than a brand-new luxury car, the 1965 Washington quarter was meant to be just another coin. But for a small handful of them, something went very wrong or very right, depending on how you look at it. Up until 1964, Washington quarters were made of 90% silver. But in 1965, silver was removed from quarters entirely due to rising metal prices. The US Mint switched to a cheaper copper-nickel-clad composition. The new quarters looked the same, but underneath, they were totally different. Or so they thought. A few 1965 quarters were accidentally struck on leftover 90% silver planchets meant for 1964. These rare errors slipped through undetected. Today, these silver 1965 quarters are among the rarest modern coins in US history. Only a few have ever been found. One sold at auction for $69,000. The difference is subtle. A silver quarter from 1965 looks just like a clad one. But there are clues. The edge of a clad quarter has a copper-colored line running through it. A silver quarter. No stripe. Just a solid silver edge. The sound is different too. A clad quarter has a dull clink. A silver quarter rings like a bell. Then there's the weight. A clad quarter weighs 5.67 grams. A silver one. Slightly heavier, 6.25 grams. That tiny difference makes all the difference to a collector. So how did this happen? It was a simple minting error. When the mint switched over to clad planchets in 1965, a few silver blanks were still in the system. Instead of being caught, they were stamped with the new 1965 date and released into circulation. Most likely ended up in cash registers, pocket change, or vending machines. But a few survived. One collector's lucky discovery turned into $69,000. This is what makes coin collecting so exciting. It's not just about old coins, it's about rare coins, errors, mysteries. The thrill of finding something valuable where no one else thought to look. Think about how many 1965 quarters are still floating around today. In jars. In drawers. In circulation. Could another silver error still be out there? Check your quarters. Especially your 1965s. Look for that edge. Listen for that ring. Wait if you can. Because one of those ordinary-looking coins might just be the next one to break the record. One small mistake by the US Mint created one of the most legendary modern coins in American history. The $69,000 quarter, still out there, maybe in your pocket right now. Top 2. It looks like just another coin. A simple quarter with George Washington's profile, dated 1972. Tossed in jars, spent on candy, forgotten in glove compartments. But what if I told you, there's a version of this very quarter that's worth $65,000? That's not a myth. That's not an exaggeration. That is the incredible story of one of the most elusive modern errors in American coin history, the 1972 Washington quarter that turned out to be anything but ordinary. To understand why this coin is so valuable, we need to rewind to 1972. The United States Mint had been using clad compositions, copper and nickel layers, for quarters since 1965. The silver era was officially over. Or so everyone believed. The 1972 quarter was supposed to be just another year of standard circulation. Millions were made. Over 300 million quarters rolled out of the Philadelphia Mint that year alone. Most were flawless. Some had minor imperfections. But a few were struck in ways no one expected. Some were struck on planchets meant for other coins, like a nickel, or even a foreign coin. Others had double strikes, off-center strikes, or dramatic die breaks. But the crown jewel among them, a 1972 Washington quarter struck on a leftover silver planchet, or possibly a proof error with mirror surfaces never meant to enter circulation. One such coin stunned collectors by fetching $65,000 at auction. The reaction: shock, disbelief, then obsession. How could such a coin exist? How could silver planchets, phased out years earlier, still be lingering in the mint's equipment? It's a mystery even veteran numismatists find hard to explain, but history shows us that mistakes like these, while rare, do happen. Mint facilities are enormous operations. Thousands of planchets, dies, and blanks are handled daily. A single leftover from a previous batch, especially if stored improperly or mixed in by accident, can slip through the system. And when it does, it becomes a legend. The $65,000 quarter isn't just about metal content. It's about rarity, provenance. The fact that in a sea of ordinary coins, this one is unique. It tells a story no other coin can. Now here's where it gets even more exciting. You could have one of these rare coins right now. Right in your change. Right in that drawer full of old quarters. But how would you know? First, check the weight. A normal 1972 quarter should weigh about 5.67 grams. If it weighs more, closer to 6.25 grams, you might be looking at a silver planchet stripe. Next, check the edge. Modern quarters have a copper-colored stripe around the edge. A silver one. Solid, all the way through. Then there's the surface quality. Some of these rare 1972 quarters were struck with proof dies, giving them mirror-like fields and frosted details. If you see a 1972 quarter that gleams unnaturally bright, it might not be just another coin. And finally, the sound. A silver quarter rings with a higher pitched tone. Try dropping a regular clad quarter on a hard surface, then drop your suspicious 1972 next to it. If it rings like a bell, pay attention, because once in a great while, a 1972 quarter turns out to be something else entirely. And when that happens, its value skyrockets, from 25 cents to $65,000. Imagine finding a coin like that. One you've walked past for years. Used in a parking meter. Given as change. But one that carries an incredible mistake, a twist of history stamped into metal. That's the thrill of numismatics. That's the joy of the hunt. Most people will never think twice about a 1972 quarter. But a few will look closer. A few will weigh it, inspect it, test the ring. And maybe, just maybe, someone will find the next one. The next quarter that makes headlines. The next $65,000 shocker. It could happen today. It could be sitting in your pocket right now. Check your quarters. Look at those 1972s. The rarest treasures hide in the most ordinary places, because in the world of coins, it's never just change. Sometimes, it's a fortune. Top 3. It's 1980. The United States is entering a new decade. The Cold War is still raging, gas prices are spiking, and Mount St. Helens is about to erupt. In pockets and purses across the country, millions of Americans carry the same everyday coins they always have, including the humble Washington quarter. But hiding among the ordinary, buried in a sea of 25-cent pieces, one coin stands apart. One 1980 Washington quarter that defies all expectations, and carries a staggering value of $60,000. It's hard to believe, isn't it? A coin minted in the age of disco, arcade games, and Ronald Reagan's presidential campaign, now worth more than the average American salary. But that's exactly what makes this coin so legendary. Let's break it down. By 1980, the Washington quarter had already seen decades of circulation. Since 1932, it had featured the same proud portrait of George Washington. But the silver was long gone, phased out in 1965 in favor of a copper-nickel-clad composition. The U.S. Mint was focused on mass production, not perfection. Over 635 million quarters were struck in 1980 at the Philadelphia Mint alone. Another 518 million in Denver. Most of these coins were flawless. Functional. Forgettable. But then came the mistake. An extremely small number of 1980 Washington quarters were struck in error, on the wrong planchets, with misaligned dies, or even with proofs or test strikes that were never supposed to leave the mint. One of these mistakes created a coin so rare, so strange, and so valuable, that when it was discovered, it stunned the collecting world. One of these coins sold for $60,000. So what makes a 1980 quarter, one of the most common dates in the series, worth that kind of money? It comes down to one word, error. In coin collecting, errors are everything. Not scratches or wear, but true mint mistakes. Wrong planchets. Double strikes. Missing elements. Off-metal compositions. These are the coins that escape strict mint procedures and slip through unnoticed. The rare $60,000 1980 quarter is believed to be an off-metal error, possibly struck on a planchet meant for another denomination, like a Susan B. Anthony dollar or a foreign coin with a similar diameter but different composition. It could also be a transitional error, where an old blank was used by mistake. Or a proof coin accidentally released into general circulation. Whatever the case, it's the combination of rarity, condition, and collector demand that makes this coin so valuable. Let's talk about how you can spot one. The first sign is in the weight. A standard 1980 Washington quarter should weigh 5.67 grams. But if yours is significantly heavier or lighter, it could be struck on the wrong planchet. Next, check the edge. A clad quarter will show the familiar copper stripe running through the rim. But an off-metal strike may have a solid silver color, or an unusual tone and texture. Even a thicker or thinner edge can be a clue. Then, there's the strike quality. Some of these high-value errors have deep, bold strikes, sharper than normal circulation coins. If it looks too good to be true, it might be. If it looks completely wrong, it might be even better. In some cases, the quarter may feature incomplete details. If the wrong size planchet was used, parts of the design may be cut off, missing, or distorted. That's a red flag for something special, and of course, the holy grail of indicators, authentication. If you find a 1980 quarter that seems unusual, get it professionally graded. Coin grading services like PCGS or NGC can confirm whether your quarter is a rare error or just an ordinary coin with a story in your imagination. But imagine this, you're sifting through a pile of loose change. Maybe you're rolling coins, or digging through a childhood collection. And there it is, just another 1980 quarter, until you notice the edge is wrong. The weight is off. It doesn't sound like the others. You get it checked, and the verdict comes back, rare off-metal error. One of only a few known examples, and now it's worth $60,000. It's the ultimate underdog story. A coin no one expected to be special. Minted at a time when quality control was tight, but not perfect. Missed by machines, overlooked by workers, and passed from hand to hand for years before someone finally saw it for what it really was, a six-figure mistake. This is what makes coin collecting so thrilling. Not just the history. Not just the art. But the chance. The luck. The rare opportunity to uncover something priceless in the most mundane place imaginable, your pocket. So here's the question, have you ever really looked at your 1980 quarters? Have you weighed them? Studied their edges? Check the strike, because somewhere out there, another one might still exist. Another forgotten error. Another $60,000 coin just waiting to be found, and who knows? It could be sitting in your change right now. A tiny piece of history. A mistake worth a fortune, the 1980 Washington quarter, the one that changed everything. Top 4. To most people, a 1990 Washington quarter is just another piece of change. It jingles in your pocket, sits in a coin jar, gets fed into vending machines or parking meters without a second thought. Over 900 million quarters were minted in 1990, and they all look the same. But buried within that ocean of ordinary coins is one rare, incredible mistake. One coin that turned heads, stunned collectors, and sold for a jaw-dropping $58,000. Yes, $58,000 for a single quarter dated 1990. This isn't a fairy tale. This is the real-world power of minting errors, collector demand, and the rarest kind of modern US coin. It's a perfect storm of rarity and surprise, and the 1990 quarter at the center of it has become a legend among numismatists. The story begins at the US Mint. In 1990, coin production was a well-oiled machine. The silver era was long over, and quarters had been clad in copper nickel since 1965. Everything was standardized. Millions of coins rolled off the presses, and quality control was tight, but no mint is perfect. And that's exactly what makes the rare 1990 Washington quarter so special. Somewhere along the line, one, or possibly a tiny handful, of these quarters was struck on the wrong planchet, or using the wrong die pairing. These weren't just slightly off-center coins, or coins with scratches or weak strikes. This was a true mint error, involving a completely unexpected and rare combination of materials or die types. There are a few theories about what went wrong. One of the most talked about possibilities is a 1990 quarter struck on a proof planchet intended for collector sets. Proof coins are made with a polished die and special treatment, creating mirror-like surfaces and frosted details. They're never meant to be released into circulation, but one such quarter somehow escaped the result. A business strike coin with a flawless, proof-like finish. A regular 1990 Washington quarter, but glowing, razor-sharp, and brilliant. When one of these was discovered and sent to auction, collectors knew exactly what they were seeing, an error so rare it practically didn't exist, and it sold for $58,000. Why so much? Because rarity isn't just about age. It's about survival. It's about how many were made, and how many weren't supposed to be made at all. An old coin from the 1800s might be valuable. But a modern error. One from an era where mistakes are almost impossible. That's what really gets collectors excited. This 1990 quarter represents everything that makes coin collecting magical. It's not old. It's not flashy. It's not encrusted with history or made of silver. But it's impossibly rare, and here's the wild part, it could still be out there. That's right. If one slipped out, more could have. Maybe 2. Maybe 5. Maybe 10. Coins like this don't always end up in the hands of collectors. Sometimes, they go unnoticed. Misplaced. Forgotten. Sitting in a desk drawer, or in the bottom of a piggy bank. That means someone, maybe even you, could have a fortune hiding in plain sight. So how would you know if your 1990 quarter is worth $58,000? Start by checking the surface. Does it look unusually shiny? Not just clean, but truly mirror-like. That's a red flag. Is the strike unusually bold, with sharply defined features, especially in Washington's hair or the eagle's feathers? That could be a sign of a proof die. Next, look at the edge. A standard 1990 clad quarter will show the classic copper-nickel sandwich, a visible stripe of copper running through the rim. If that stripe is missing or looks off, it could mean the coin was struck on a wrong planchet. Don't forget the weight. A typical clad quarter weighs 5.67 grams. Anything significantly heavier or lighter is suspicious. Weigh it on a precise scale, you might be surprised. Finally, listen to the sound. A proof coin or a wrong metal coin will often ring differently when dropped. Try it, compare it to another quarter. That little difference in tone might be worth tens of thousands. Now, here's the most important part, don't assume. If you think your quarter is special, get it graded by a professional. Major services like PCGS or NGC have confirmed and certified these rare modern errors, and they're the ones that can turn your change into a certified $58,000 payday. It's wild to think about. A coin minted just 3 decades ago. No silver. No commemorative design. Just a regular 1990 quarter, except it isn't. It's a glitch in the minting matrix. A fluke. A miracle. And to the right collector, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. That's what makes this coin so legendary, the 1990 Washington quarter. The sleeper hit of the coin world. Common on the outside, unforgettable on the inside. A $58,000 treasure disguised as pocket change, and maybe, just maybe, it's hiding in your coin jar right now. Top 5. It's 1992. Bill Clinton is running for president. The Cold War is officially over, and grunge is taking over the music world. In your pocket, nothing seems unusual. You've got a handful of coins, dimes, nickels, and quarters. Among them, a simple 1992 Washington quarter. Just another piece of loose change, but what if one of those quarters wasn't just worth 25 cents? What if one of them was worth $52,000? Sounds impossible, right? But it's not. There's a version of the 1992 Washington quarter that shocked collectors, turned heads at auction, and proved that even modern coins can carry unbelievable value. A rare mistake during a routine minting year. A coin never meant to exist, but somehow, it does, and today, it's worth a small fortune. Let's rewind to the early 90s. The US Mint was still producing billions of coins every year. By 1992, the Washington quarter had been circulating for 60 years. It was familiar, almost invisible to most people. Same face of George Washington. Same heraldic eagle on the reverse. Same copper-nickel-clad metal that had been used since the mid-1960s. There was nothing special about a 1992 quarter, or so we thought, but deep within the mint, something went wrong. It wasn't a dramatic failure. Not a coin with half the design missing or one struck completely off-center. This was more subtle. A rare, technical mistake. A tiny shift that would go unnoticed by the human eye, unless you knew exactly what to look for. In 1992, the US Mint produced both circulation coins and proof coins. Proofs are special, struck with polished dies. They have mirror-like fields and sharp, frosted details. They're not made for spending. They're made for collectors. Proof coins are struck with extraordinary precision, often multiple times, and on specially prepared blanks. They are then placed directly into protective cases and sold to collectors through official US Mint sets. But somehow, in 1992, a few proof dies were accidentally used to strike regular business strike quarters. These coins were never supposed to exist. But they did. And one of them, perfectly preserved, eventually sold for an incredible $52,000. This is known as a proof reverse error. A coin that has the reverse design meant for a proof coin, paired with a regular obverse and struck on a standard planchet. The result? A unique hybrid, neither fully proof nor fully circulation grade. Just rare, and incredibly valuable. Collectors call it the 1992 close AM quarter, a reference to the spacing between the letters A and M in America on the reverse. On a typical business strike, the A and M are spaced farther apart. But on a proof reverse, they are very close, almost touching. It's a small detail, but to collectors, it means everything. Now here's where it gets exciting. This coin doesn't look obviously rare. It's not shiny like a proof. It won't scream, "I'm worth $52,000. It looks like any other 1992 quarter, until you look closely. That's why so many may still be out there, hiding in plain sight. So how do you find one? First, look at the reverse. Check the spacing between the A and M in United States of America. On most 1992 quarters, there's a clear gap. But on the rare version, they're nearly touching. If you see that close spacing, you're on to something big. Second, examine the strike. These rare 1992 quarters often have sharper details than normal coins. The feathers on the eagle, the lettering, the overall sharpness, it's all slightly cleaner, crisper. That's the fingerprint of a proof die. Third, check the condition. The $52,000 example sold at auction wasn't just rare, it was in pristine condition. That's key. The better the shape, the more it's worth, but even a slightly circulated example of this error could still be worth thousands. Think about that. A 25-cent coin you might have overlooked your entire life could actually be your lottery ticket. It's the ultimate numismatic twist. Not a coin from the 1800s. Not one made of gold or silver. Just a modern-day quarter, mass-produced, easy to miss, and yet worth more than some cars. That's what makes this story so incredible. It reminds us that rarity isn't always about age. Sometimes, it's about the unexpected. The unintended. The quiet mistakes that slip through the cracks of perfection. Somewhere, right now, another one of these quarters could be sitting in a change dish. In a cash register. In someone's pocket. Maybe even in your own collection. That's the magic of coin collecting. You don't need to be a millionaire to play the game. All you need is a sharp eye, a little knowledge, and the right coin at the right time. The 1992 Washington quarter worth $52,000 is real. It's been found. It's been authenticated. And it's changed the way collectors view modern coins. So next time you see a 1992 quarter, don't just spend it. Study it, because hidden in that tiny, ordinary piece of metal could be the extraordinary.